Unfortunately, the ignorance of the populace has been taken advantage of, especially with this upsurge of technology. I was saying to you earlier, Tom from MySpace never sold anyone's information, you know?
Yeah.
It was just a beautiful thing on the internet, and once people found out just how much money could be made,
data's now a commodity.
Data has become a commodity that it has changed so much. It has robbed the innocence of so many different parts of the internet.
Oh yeah.
With the kind of manipulation that goes on Facebook, the intentionally fake articles that are posed as news, just pumped out by sheer numbers, hoping to just have the exposure of their headlines sway people's opinions in elections and other, who else knows what other things have been swayed due to the zealous headlines that have been made by bots or by people who are intentionally have malicious intent that have their own agenda.
Yeah.
You don't think it's a service? Advertising is helping me understand the existence of products that are going to make my life better. So by reading my Google searches, it knows the kind of products I could be looking for, and then it shows them to me the next day.
Yeah, at that level, it's it's fine. It almost sounds fine, but everyone takes it a step further. People take it a step further. The robots don't. You're right, they don't. They show you what you want, and they're designed for their purpose. But it's the people behind those robots who always take it a step further. So they can build a better robot that makes more money at the expense of something. At some point, it becomes too much of an expense for certain individuals, for people.
Like what? Give me an example.
I mean, this isn't going to be a negative example per se, but the Target bot that figured out a woman was pregnant before she even knew she was pregnant.
Oh, yeah.
And the chick was in her teens or something, and her dad was
the family member. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Again, but that's at the expense of that level of privacy. Now you might say, well, it's a good thing because she got shown these things, but I think if we were to drag those scenarios out, I think we could find scenarios where it's not a good thing, where that sort of information isn't something. Again, when left to the bots, fine, sure, whatever. They're just going to get better at showing you things. But when you give it to people, it can be used for malicious intent. It can be used to control people.
Oh, yeah. Because
you trust that the bot shows you what you want. So if you trust the bot so much, well, then the people behind the bot say, well, we know what you want. We'll show them this. And then now you believe you want this because the bot's shown you this.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's a huge service to the country because we just need to keep the money moving. It's the only way we're going to survive. So, this advertising is so important. It's important people have things that they want to buy, or else, everything will fall flat.
I mean, sure, but again, when left to the bots alone, it works. It would work like that if programmed to work like that. But again, it's not left to the bots. It's people. The people take it because people are greedy fucks.
So it sounds like that data is going to be there regardless, right? We've gone too far to stop the data being there, but what are people using the data for that we would consider well, that's crossing a line?
Okay. Can I give you an example of that? Knowing exactly where you expect things to be on a screen. Let's say I'm creating malware, right? And I'm trying to get some malware on your computer to get you to call me so I can try to convince you your computer's broken. And you pay me an absurd amount of money so that I can uninstall malware on your computer. And if I can figure out exactly what you expect the right icons to look like, if you can collect the data from all the website, what's the most attractive font that people like? What's the most common location for these prompts to be? Where do people click on those things, And then you figure all that out, and then you set out to put your malware out, and you set it in the right place. You get the right font, you do all that, and then hopefully you get enough people to click on it and call you.
Right, okay. And so, the studying or research of, the best, most optimal user interface is a really common department in a lot of companies, a lot of tech companies, and so it seems like a malware company would just be using that right?
Yeah, one thing that can also happen is, sure, the bots are collecting your information, your data, whatever, but someone hacks into the database, collects that information, scoops it, black market, sells it. Now someone uses the data, even if it's a limited amount of data, to try to penetrate the defenses of your accounts. Well, let's say you forgot this account that you created 10 years ago with a very weak password, but it's connected to your Google somehow, or it's connected to your Facebook, or it's connected to something else, because it always is. And they hack into that, and now they have more information. Now they have personal information. Now they have your information. They move from there to another password, another account. Now they have your email. They already have a password that they worked out, so now they're going to go try that password on other things, see how your security is on that.
Yeah.
Because most people use only a couple passwords. But that's where that level of data collection shouldn't be a thing, other than for immediate purpose of learning bots and then disposed of once that information, is learned. Once the necessary components of that information are gathered from the bot, it should be destroyed, gone, deleted, erased.
Okay, so we have a tool, which is the concept of the data gathering, and we have a minority of groups of people that are using that for intentions that we don't necessarily approve of. How do we address that? You don't suggest we stop gathering data altogether, right?
I think we're too far to stop gathering data altogether.
Yeah, hell yeah, that's for sure.
You're right.
So can you imagine an app that is collecting a bunch of data, right? And so in order to see what they could possibly doing with data, you will have to see what they're taking. So imagine if you could not see that data. You couldn't tell what they're doing with it. You can't even see what they're collecting. That would be suspicious, right?
I would just assume that people in the industry they would know what could be done, whatever type of data is being collected, right?
It all depends on what, the users agree to.
The users don't, lawfully they agree, but no one is reading that.
But that's how the law works.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest, I've actually started reading, or at least skimming through a lot of them, just because I've started figuring out some of the keywords I'm looking for, or some of the key phrases in certain sections. So I'm not saying I read, the whole thing, but I definitely skim through them a lot harder now, looking for certain words and phrases.
A certain amount of transparency would be okay from a company. If I have a website and I let all my users know, yeah, I'm collecting your data for keystrokes and, all that. I want to figure out a better way to make my website more efficient and whatnot. But then if I start selling that, I would want to be transparent about that as well.
Yeah, and that could lead to you accidentally selling a password.
Yeah. Are we confident that their data belongs to them?
No, it kind of doesn't.
The spawner of the data. So essentially, people are interacting technologically somehow with a tool developed by somebody, right? And so they're giving that tool information within the interaction. Mm-hmm. So one of the core ideas, property is a huge conversation in the physical world within governments, and the whole data collection aspect is kind of relatively new. And so it seems like the idea of property is to be applied to the data, especially if it's being sold. The idea of property.
Yeah, and I don't own my keystroke information, apparently. Apparently the website, Google, owns it and can sell it.